let's do a do-it-yourself payroll video for 2023. So let's start out looking at a bird's eye view of everything. Imagine you're a small business owner. Imagine you don't want to pay a lot for your payroll. Don't imagine, because it's an actual fact, you don't have to imagine, you are responsible for paying your payroll taxes on time, regardless of whether or not you pay a payroll provider to do it for you. You are actually still responsible. That's what the law says. So why not take it into your own hands? That's what I always say. You can run your payroll, and you can do it with Payroll in Excel for all 50 states, which I've created here. It's an enormous file. And I want to help everyone run their business, and people ask me to take this file and convert it to just their situation for just their state. And I've actually made that not that big of a process to handle when you understand how this file is constructed. So what we're going to talk about is, if you want to purchase a copy of this file right now, that's right, it's $250, and you get this 50 state file in Microsoft Excel. All 50 states are in here. If you've seen any of the videos I've done previously, you can see all the functionalities, but we're going to focus on one state in the middle of the country today. How do we create a file for just Kansas that's not enormous? This file could handle 50 employees in all 50 states. It actually has 2,600 records of payroll records potentially in here with this structure, because it's a weekly payroll frequency and everything. So now that we've kind of taken a broad's eye view, you want to run everything. How do you do it with this file? How do you get this file to look like just what you need, so that I don't have to do it for you and you can do it yourself? Well, this file's got everything, and all we need is Kansas. And we need to set up this file for the proper amount of employees and the proper pay frequency. So whatever your business does, these are the kind of questions you have to ask about your business. How often do you issue paychecks? Do you issue them weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly? This person does them weekly. It's a lot of paychecks. It's a lot of pay periods. When do you issue the paychecks? You issue them on Fridays. So when was the first paycheck of the year of 2023? The answer is it will be on Friday, January 6th. And it's going to be related to a pay period. And this is a smart way of entering in this information, because it says, well, when does your pay period end? Instead of just typing in over this dark colored cell here, which you're not really supposed to type over cells that are dark in the background. If they're light in the background, you can type in them. But if they're dark, you generally don't want to, because they're already formulas. So it's asking you, well, what the pay period ended when? Does your pay period end on Saturday? Do you pay from Sunday to Saturday and then you pay it on the subsequent Friday? Then this number has to be 6. Because if it was 0, then the pay period would end and you'd issue the paycheck for the last 7 days on that day. And most people don't do that because they have to record hours and stuff. So you put the number of days it takes for you to issue this paycheck. And this needs to be a standard schedule. You need to have a standard payroll schedule for the most part. So then you type in the number of pay periods in the year. In that case, it's 52. And you check to make sure that that's the correct number of pay periods in the year by looking at all the pay periods over here, and making sure that they end at the right spot. Meaning at the end of the year in 2023, the last pay period is going to be the 52nd week. It ends on the 23rd of December of 2023, and the paycheck will be issued 6 days later on the 29th. So the paycheck for this next period on the 30th doesn't get issued until January of 2024. So this is not, there's no 53 pay periods in this weekly payers year. It's very complicated pay period frequencies and stuff. So now that we've done that, we can start to rid this sheet of anything that is not Kansas related. And the only really important part we need to touch is right here, which is all these state filing status strings. You don't need any of them if they're not related to Kansas. And this is going to cloud up a huge drop-down list. So it's good to get rid of these. So alphabetically, Kansas is somewhere before Louisiana. It's right here. So you can get rid of everything else and everything else below it and not worry about any of this. And now you've basically cleared out the matrix sheet from stuff that's non-Kansas that you don't really care about. There's a lot of other stuff. We don't have to touch it because it's not going to bother you for Kansas. Now, in Kansas, I believe this person only wants 20 employees. So we're going to delete all these columns except to up in rows, sorry, up to 20. And we're going to have employees now 1 to 20 showing up right here. Okay. And we also have a bunch of other states' unemployment rates and unemployment wage bases. We do not need to see them. We only need to see Kansas. So we're going to delete anything else that's not related to Kansas. That goes for you too, Kentucky. And everything else can go away. You don't need, we'll leave the workers' comp stuff at the bottom because it might come into play in a different situation. We're going to leave that there. So now we've just gotten rid of, look at how much cleaner this sheet is starting to look now. Because we've got rid of everything that's not related to Kansas. Kansas UI wage base, I believe, stayed the same at 14,000. Okay, so you got 20 potential employees. Let's say that I'm working in Kansas. That would be a tough sell, but it's possible. You start to answer the questions here, and you start to see that some of these you don't need answers to. So it's going to ask you to fill it. Did the person fill out a current W-4 or not, like 2020 or later? Really is what it is. And hopefully you have them on a newer W-4 because that's a different set of questions that are over here. You need to answer about the W-4. And this is not going to be a video about W-4. We don't have time to talk about it, but that's a whole other video. Now, so you answer those questions. Is the person married? What state are they in right now? Your only state you can choose from is Kansas because we just removed all the other states. How many allowances do they have on their K-4? You're going to type that here. This column is not used and could be hidden, but let's just shrink it a little bit. Let's not worry for a second. There's no local tax rates for Kansas, so we could actually get rid of this also, but we'll leave it for now. This is stuff that definitely doesn't apply to Kansas. Arizona, Connecticut, New York, PF, SDI, that stuff can go. So we're going to delete those columns. And it's cool because the formulas up top change automatically. So unless you insert columns, you don't have to do anything. And you can hide this. Now, Kansas is asking for a state filing status. And now you'll see this list. Oh, there's all these blanks. Okay, so let's put, I didn't realize this would happen. Could just do this. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete these specific cells right here. We want to delete shift cells up. Don't want to delete the entire row. You just need to delete this area so that we can have just Kansas show up on top. We can also delete this stuff and shift cells up. That's going to change the range, and I believe it's going to make it a lot easier in the drop-down menu. You see, you can start to play with this file forever. Yep, there it is. KS single. Kansas single is a status here. Fill out information about the W-4. We also have a workers' comp type that you can put. That's down at the bottom here. It's where you have your workers' comp percentages right here. If you use this, you can type in your own types of workers' comp and rates. It's up for another video. Some people have workers' comp insurance on different types of employees. Then there's all these other things you can enter. You can enter a PTO balance if you accrue PTO for your employees based on hours or pay periods. You can put an amount here and that will all work. All right, so this stuff is basically ready to go on this sheet. So this sheet looks pretty easy. Your next employee is real easy. You just start entering this stuff in. This is all you have to look at. And you could even hide all this. And it becomes really, really easy to look at, right? Now, let's go to our daily entry sheet. Daily entry sheet is going to have you choose the employee, and then you type in their days and their hours in these light blue cells. Don't type over the dark ones. Workers' comp calculations are work in process. Like I'm working on that formula. It's related to your specific business. If you need workers' comp stuff, let me know, and I have to do that custom for you, or you have to do it custom yourself. So you put in hours for people, type in a date and an hour. This should come out as a date. See how this format, how it looks like that with the forward slashes, I guess. You need to type the date in some format like that so it recognizes it as a date and as a number. There are projects and tips and stuff, but I'll leave that out of this video. So now that our daily entry is good, so basically our matrix is good, our employee info is good, our daily entry is good. Let's get the PTO out of there. Now, what about our pay period record sheet? Well, we got to delete everything that's not related to Kansas. We can delete everything that's not related to Kansas. First thing is in this area here where there's a bunch of errors, that's stuff I just deleted from the employee info sheet. These can all go. You're just going to delete the columns entirely when we do this. And the reference numbers up top in row 1 will change automatically, so you don't even have to do anything with them, which is awesome. So you can even hide them. So what else do we get rid of that is not related to Kansas? And also, we're going to talk about the bottom, actually. Let's talk about the bottom right now first. So we're going to be able to make this data set a lot smaller because we had prepared the data set in a format to handle 50 employees. We do not have 50 employees now. We have 20 employees. So we get to get rid of all of this. And now we're going to have just 20 employee slots. I can tell that by looking over here and seeing the pay periods and the employee number as it goes down. And you can increase these by highlighting this entire area over here and literally all of it though. You grab all of it all the way over here. You can just start pulling this down and it's going to create new employees and new slots automatically. That's how the formulas work. There aren't more than 20 because you can see our list stops at 20 in our employee info sheet. So it gives you a bunch of errors, but it theoretically can do that into the thousands of employees, really. Excel can kind of handle that depending on how many columns of formulas we have going on in this file. So what else can we get rid of? What else can we hide? Well, I usually hide all these dark colored cells all the way to here. Hide, not delete. You cannot delete them, you can hide them though. Now, this is what usually ends up being the visual that shows. Don't need to worry about this error here. Can ignore this error. Make this a little bit cleaner. We have hourly rates, we have bonus and salary. We're going to get rid of everything other than this first employee. We also have all our employees stacked. So when people are looking through this and like they're looking at the first pay period, what you end up doing is you use the filter here and you're like, all right, well, I care about this first pay period, which is this one that ends on December 31st. I care about that right here. So you're going to get all your employees that have paychecks for that period, what their hourly rates are, what their amounts are, what their hours are. So all is going to show up nice and easy like that. So what else can we delete to make this thing, shrink it and shrink the size of it, make it work faster? Well, the answer is we can start by getting rid of things that don't apply to Kansas. And this is where it does get a little bit technical because you have to understand what taxes apply to what states. But I can tell you that SDI and paid family leave, they do not care about that. So these ones right here, and every state, which is what you're starting to see in the titles here, every single state is in here in alphabetical order. So we're going to go to Kansas and stop and delete, which is going to be right here. Okay, delete this. And now all the states after Kansas alphabetically can be deleted. Maine, Maryland, Minnesota, Nebraska, North Carolina, New Jersey, New York, Yonkers, North Dakota. Ohio is still not updated, by the way. Ohio still hasn't released their booklet. Oregon needs to be tested more. Pennsylvania still needs local taxes updated. Utah, I'm still not completely done with everything, guys. That's why I've been working on this nonstop. All the way to here, West Virginia. All the way to West Virginia and delete. Delete at the Appalachians. Now, what else we got? Everything else needs to stay, pretty much. But we need to do one change to a formula because we just deleted a lot of stuff. You know, we need to change the net pay formula. Right. It's a green one right here. Net pay, you see it's an error. And it's obvious because you try to run a pay stub and you'll see it's going to be an error when you try to run it. Get an error. Well, how do you get rid of that error? Well, the reason is we've deleted a few cells that were errors. So you actually have to go into the formula and delete everything that says minus pound ref. Those are all the errors that we just deleted that apply to other things. And now you're done. And then you paste this formula all the way down and everything fixes itself. And you now have a pay period record sheet that looks something like this that you get to enter into after you do the daily entry for the employee for the day. Then you come in and you look at what their pay period record is, look at their rate, look at their salary, any garnishments, any retirement percentages, all that stuff. All right, so awesome. That's done. Now let's go to the pay stub sheet. Within the pay stub sheet, there are also things that do not apply to Kansas that apply to other states that are on here. Those get to go. Real easy to delete stuff off the pay stub sheet. Just highlight the column. Nope, no disability, no pay family, no employee, no, I don't know about employees, workers' comp. That's also probably one that can be deleted. Oregon transit, of course not. We're not in Oregon. We're in Kansas. It's a long drive from Kansas to Oregon. I've done that drive. Affleck, stuff like this can probably also be deleted, but we're going to leave it there for now. We don't care about California ETT tax, Oregon benefit fund. Nope, doesn't matter. Now you end up with a paycheck that works. So somebody gets paid $3,000 a week, gets $526 federal and $155.04 Kansas. Now we're starting to look like something, right? And you can do stuff with your pay stub. You can put images on your pay stub. You can do whatever. This thing's totally dynamic. Every time you change a pay period, another paycheck comes out, and the annual total show up, and it does what it does. So that's the pay stub. Now, a 941 report. Well, I shrunk this thing from 50 to 20 employees. So there's these other 30 employees that we need to delete these slots right here in our reporting mechanism. Okay, delete, shift cells up. That should work. Now we have 20 employees. This looks to be working. This is our 941 quarterly. If the 941 changes, which it might, I don't believe they've issued a Q1 941 for 2023 yet. If there are changes here, I'm going to have to do them, and I'll have to notify you if they are substantial. Sometimes they are. That has happened before. So that's why I can't even give you an answer yet about whether or not there's changes to that report. Next, you've got your state reporting mechanism. Choose Kansas. Do not need any of these things. So we're going to delete shift cells up. Same issue here. Nothing is needed here. And there's actually no local tax. We could delete that too, but I leave it on anyway, just in case there's some local supplemental tax somehow. So here you have your quarterly for your states, or you could do it by month or whatever. If you want to just choose the month, what was January, what was February, shows up right here, right? So all that stuff's done. W-2s are looking good. I don't see any issue here for W-2, should be fine. Okay, that looks fine. So then we have a sheet called a dynamic pivot, and it is a pivot table, and you can refresh this pivot table. And this pivot table is interesting because it can give you a look of anything at any way you want to look at it, basically. So this is very intriguing when you run reporting on things and you want to bring in additional categories that I've not already created a specific report for. It's helpful to look at unemployment, because unemployment shows up over here as a state UI tax. You could also add in state excess wages if you need to file a UI report, that it can do that in there as well by opening up the field list and adding the column that you need from the data set. 1099 NECs, 1099 miscellaneous. All right, so that is basically the process of turning this into a single state version that is a lot smaller. For example, this file has probably shrunk from, I know that the original one was 13 megabytes, and this one is going to be a whole lot shorter, a whole lot smaller, probably in the 1 to 2 megabyte range, I would imagine, maybe 3, but probably about 2. And that's because we just got rid of all of that excess fluff for all those other states. So it's a process that when you watch that video, if you really paid attention, you'll have some other specific questions for states that have some of those other things that we just deleted, like paid family leave or state disability. And a lot of states have those. So Kansas in that sense is a little easier than some of those. And I might do some videos on how to do specific states as I go through the list of people, because I have just today, off the top of my head, I know that I have to create a state file for Kansas, which is basically done. Congrats. I have to do one from Vermont, really. I need to do one for Arizona. I need to do one for Louisiana. I need to do one for Oklahoma. I need to do one for Illinois. I need to do one for Maine, really, but not, yeah, I should. I don't actually have to, but I should. I need to do one for California. I need to do one for just a regular federal version that has all the states that have no state tax, which you can just leave all those states in there. This the raw federal version. I need to do, I think I need to do Colorado. So there's about 9 or 10, and as I go through them, I'll come across any nuances and everything. But I have basically tested this as much as I can. There's going to be further testing going on as soon as there are better resources to test 2023 rates against, which there just aren't available really yet, but they will be. So that's how you do it. You can see that this is a super, super powerful file. And I mean, we just condensed it down to one state, but you can use it for all 50. So no matter where the business is, it's going to handle, a huge percentage of anything that state can throw at you in tax, because I've prepared it to do so. So that is Payroll Excel 2023. That's how to condense a file into a state for all you CPAs and accountants and Excel nerds out there that want to take it and run with it. That is how I do it to get a more usable product out from that massive 13 megabyte file or whatever that it was started with. All right. Payroll should be easy. Boy, are we making it so.